G'day Internet, welcome back to another video and back to the Atari ST. Now, in the first video I put out a bit of a shout out to find out what games I should check out on this machine. I've done that, I've run through a bunch of the games and I've got some to show you. We'll also be joined by Rees from Control-Alt-Rees again with some of his picks. Now, without a doubt, the number one game that was recommended to me was Defender of the Crown. It's not a game I've actually played before, even though I do realise it is a Cinemaware classic. If memory serves me right, the only Cinemaware game I played back in the day was the Three Stooges game. No idea why, but we did have it on our 486 when I was a kid. Now, this is absolutely a game that I really need to read the manual for. There's still a whole bunch of things you do in it that I still couldn't work out how you actually do them. But I can completely understand that this is a game that you could sink many, many hours into.
Hi there, me again, and now you have the Atari ST up and running and you actually have a way of launching games on it. I hear you're looking for some recommendations for some games to check out, and I was looking at the comments section in the part 1 video of this series, and there were some really good suggestions down there for some exclusives and stuff. Another thing that a lot of people perhaps aren't aware of, or although I guess it's obvious when you actually think about it, is that a lot of Atari's classic arcade games never had official ports to the Amiga. So we're talking games like Missile Command, Battlezone, Tempest and that kind of thing. And also games that Atari had the distribution rights for that weren't necessarily games that were developed by them. Stuff like Robotron 2084 and Xevious also never made it to the Amiga because Atari wouldn't license them for that particular platform. So they are some exclusives that are well worth checking out on the ST. But as far as personal recommendations are concerned, and games that actually mean something to me, I want to go with 3 games, or in the case of one of them, actually a game series, that I played a lot as a kid, and that I've also played a lot, of course, over the years since, and that I think are really good on the ST, and I think are well worth checking out for any Atari ST owner. And the very first one of those that I want to go for is Escape from the Planet of the Robot Monsters. So I first got my hands on this game back in 1991 when I got the Discovery Extra Pack with the Atari ST for Christmas, and I pretty much spent the entirety of that Christmas day playing this game. Now it's quite a unique isometric shooter, obviously it's based on the arcade game, and it has a really cool comic book style and a really cool soundtrack. In fact, I actually use part of the intro music as part of my intro on my channel, and I think it's well worth checking out, and it's probably one of those underappreciated gems that most people haven't actually heard of.
The next couple of games that I'm going to check out now are actually a bit more of my own choice. The first one is the arcade classic from Sega, and that being Outrun. Now this is quite a competent port on the Atari ST. I am a fan of this game on the Mega Drive. My only real criticism here is that it kind of has a bit of a jerkiness to it. It's not something I can put my finger on, but it just doesn't seem to run quite as smooth as some of the other versions of this game.
Speaking of arcade conversions, the next game that I'm going to recommend is Bobble. Now, of course, this game was released on every single platform under the sun since it first came out, and the Atari ST was no exception. But I really like the graphics. I think they've made their way across to the platform really well, and very authentic to the original arcade release. And the other thing is the soundtrack. I think they've used the Atari ST's YM sound chip really well. I think the music sounds great on it, and I think they've done a fantastic job of it. And also one of my favourite games to play in two-player as a kid as well.
So the next game for me is Xenon 2 Mega Blast, which is a game that I used to play as a kid on the PC. Now, admittedly, I am not the best at vertical or horizontal shooters. It is not my forte, but I always found this game to have a slightly slower pace than your average shooter. But it's a game I try and check out on whatever machine I happen to be playing with at the time.
And my final game, or shall I say series of games that are well worth checking out on the Atari ST, are of course Codemasters' classic Dizzy series. So an iconic series of games by British developer Codemasters, which I'm sure also made it down to your neck of the woods, down under. And the game that I particularly enjoyed from this series back in the day was Treasure Island Dizzy, and in fact I absolutely played it to death. Quite a punishingly difficult game due to the way the inventory management system works, quite notoriously, but really rewarding when you do finally work it out, and yeah, hours and hours of entertainment, so one that I can definitely recommend.
Now, another game that got highly recommended to me in the comments was a top-down racer called Super Sprint. I've got to be honest though, this is a game I kind of struggled with. I found the acceleration of the cars to be a little strange. They kind of poodle along and then all of a sudden take off like they've got bad turbo lag or something. And I found the steering to be kind of really strange. It would kind of be vague and then highly aggressive, and you would end up just turning and smashing straight into the sidewall. But it is a game that got me thinking about another favourite of mine, which is Ivan Stewart's Super Offroad. Yes, a game that has been ported to every platform under the sun as well. And again, a game that I used to really enjoy on the PC. This is the kind of game that I really enjoy. You can sit down and just play the first level for 5 minutes and have a bit of fun. And again, it's a game that I try and check out on whatever machine I have to be playing with. However, even on the first level, to this day, I still manage to smash into that corner every single time. And both these games are really kind of precursors, I suppose, to the more popular Micro Machines games that came out on, I think it was on the Super Nintendo and the Mega Drive later on. Now, that is by no means an exhaustive list of games for the Atari ST. There is literally thousands, including one which many people recommended to me as the killer app on the Atari ST, that being Dungeon Master. It is a game that I did have a bit of a poke at, but it really is one of those games that you have to spend hours, days on to try and even start to get a feel for it, but it was highly recommended as well. But for now, that will pretty much do it. This is surely not the last time you'll see the Atari ST on the channel. I already have at least 3 other projects coming up, but we will give the Atari ST a bit of a break. A big thank you to everyone who made suggestions in the comments of that previous video for games for the Atari ST. And of course, a massive shout out to Rees. And if you're not already subscribed to his channel, I suggest you do. Links are down in the description. Now, if you liked the video, click like, subscribe, all the usual YouTubey stuff. If there's anything else Atari ST related that you would like to see, leave a comment down below, and either myself or Rees will hopefully get to it at some point. If you'd like to help support the channel, I am on Patreon, just like these wonderful people just here. But that will bring this video to an end, and I'll see you in the next one.